Good morning, students. Welcome to Science class, Biology part, Chapter 7. In this chapter, we'll study about the weather and climate. We'll also see how different forms of life are adapted to the climate of their habitat. There are daily reports of weather on the television and radio and in the newspaper. We find that daily weather report carries information about the temperature, humidity, and rainfall during the past 24 hours. It also predicts the weather for the day. The word humidity may be new for you. The humidity means it's a measure of the moisture in air, or you can say the amount of water vapor in air. Now, try to record the information from the weather report for a week. Just if you check it up, the data for a particular week, you may find the minimum or the maximum temperature or the humidity. These parameters are not the same on any 2 days. So over a week, there may be considerable variation. So weather of a place changes day after day and week after week. That's why we often say today's weather is too humid, or we say the weather was warm last week. So it goes on changing. The weather is such a complex phenomenon that it can vary over very short period of time. It can happen sometimes that it is sunny in the morning, but suddenly cloud appears and it starts raining heavily. Sometimes a heavy rain may vanish in a matter of minutes and give way to bright sunshine. You must have had several such experiences. So weather is a complex phenomenon and it's not easy to predict. All changes in the weather are caused by the sun. As you all know, the sun is a huge sphere of hot gases at a very high temperature. The distance of the sun from us is very large. Even then, the energy sent out by the sun is so huge that it is the source of all heat and light on the earth. So, the sun is the primary source of energy that causes change in the weather. So, the energy absorbed and reflected by the earth's surface, oceans, and the atmosphere plays important role in determining the weather at any place. So, next we'll look into the elements of weather. The important factors or the elements which determine the weather of a particular place are temperature, humidity, rainfall, and wind speed. How can we define weather? The day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place with respect to the temperature, humidity, rainfall, wind speed, etc. is called the weather at that place. As it is clear from any weather report, the maximum and minimum temperatures are recorded every day. Do you know how these temperatures are recorded? Already you learned in chapter 4 heat, the different types of thermometers, that is clinical thermometer, which is used to measure our body temperature, the laboratory thermometer, and special thermometers, that is they are otherwise called as maximum minimum thermometers. So with the help of this maximum and minimum thermometers, we measure the maximum and minimum temperature. The maximum temperature of the day occurs generally in the afternoon, while the minimum temperature occurs generally in the early morning. Can you now understand why in summers we feel so uncomfortable in the afternoon and comparatively comfortable early in the morning? The weather report are prepared by the meteorological department of the government. This department collects the data on temperature, humidity, wind, rainfall, etc. and makes the weather prediction. Do you know how the rainfall is measured? Rainfall is measured by an instrument called the rain gauge. It is basically a measuring cylinder with a funnel on top to collect rainwater. Now you could have understood why weather changes so frequently, what are the elements of weather, who prepares the weather report, how they are measuring the maximum minimum temperature and the rainfall. The meteorologists record the weather every day. The records of the weather have been preserved for the past several decades. You know very well, a decade is equal to 10 years. And these records help us to determine the weather pattern at a place. Otherwise, we call it as climate. How can we define climate? The average weather pattern taken over a long time, say 25 years, is called climate of the place. If we find that the temperature at a place is high most of the time, then we say that the climate of that place is hot. If there is also heavy rainfall on most of the days in the same place, then we can say that the climate of that place is hot and wet. Now, let's see how to calculate the mean temperature for a given month in two steps. First, we find the average of the temperatures recorded during the month. Second, we calculate the average of such average temperatures over many years. That gives a mean temperature. Now, if we compare the mean temperature of two places in Jammu Kashmir and Kerala, we can easily see the difference in the climate of two places in Jammu Kashmir and Kerala. We can see that Kerala is very hot and wet in comparison to Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir has moderately hot and wet climate for a part of the year. Similar data for the western region of India, for example, Rajasthan, will show that the temperature is high during most part of the year. But during winter, which lasts only for a few months, the temperature is quite low. This region receives very little rainfall. This is the typical desert climate and it's hot and dry. So the western region, that's in Rajasthan, the climate is hot and dry. The northeastern India receives rain for a major part of the year. Therefore, we say that the climate of the northeast is wet. So the northeastern part of India has wet climate. That's why we have the place called Cherrapunji in northeast part of India, which receives rainfall throughout the year. So this is general picture of climate in India. I hope you got the answers for the questions you had in your mind related to weather and climate. Now, a recapitulation of what we have studied in this class. Definition of weather, the elements of weather, and the role of meteorological department in preparing the weather report. So how they are preparing the weather report, how they are measuring the maximum and minimum temperature with the help of special thermometer, that is maximum minimum thermometer, and how the rainfall is measured with the help of rain gauge. Definition of climate and how to calculate the mean temperature and the different climatic regions of India. I hope you all enjoyed this class. Thank you.